Thank you, Kumar. That was a wonderful presentation. And it looks like both Yanis and Kumar and myself have collaborated on part of the presentations, but obviously not. I'm glad that it's kind of working out that way. So going to the first slide that Kumar mentioned, let's start at the end. Let's imagine what the end would be. And this was, in education terms, it's called backward design sometimes. So you start at what the end is and see how we may be able to measure it, and then you kind of walk back and plan it. So it's something that you mentioned. I agree with you 100%. So here, there are some things that are easy to measure, and oftentimes we measure the things that are easy and may not be the most important. So the first one is the numbers of the schools and the students, etc. Those are somewhat easy to measure, and I'll present to you those data. The second one is somewhat harder to measure. There is what impact are the graduates making, and what kind of ripple effects that this program is having beyond engineering and beyond in other fields. So that's a little bit harder. I think we need all of your help for kind of collecting those kinds of stories. So let me just go to the first set of things about the numbers. So is there a pointer here? Okay. So here is where the three that everybody has now heard of, fondly known as the Three Amigos over there, in 2009, the start of this program. And then it's been growing, and there are some inflection points I want to point out here. It's somewhat organically growing in the first few years. I think the very next year, I think there's, the model that's been working at Duke, Olin, and USC may not be the exact same model at other universities could work. So for example, at ASU, I was at ASU for a long time. There, we kind of showed that it can be done at a large public university and to scale. So that was kind of a proof of concept that was required. And then such progress was done. And Kumar mentioned in 2015, the meeting at the Obama White House and the 122 deans who wanted to sign. So you can see a big uptick after that meeting in terms of the number of schools that are taking up. And then 2016, the NAE established, at the end of 2016, the NAE program of the Office for the GCSP Network Office. So that again, you'll see another uptick in that particular point. And then you see in 2018, this number is only up to as of 26th October. Probably a few more schools will be added by the end of the year. But we had our first international workshop in Hong Kong, where there was, along the eastern seaboard of China, Korea, Japan, all the way to Australia, we got 150 people attending this, and I expect a big uptick in international schools because of that. And in 2019, there are already 4 planned workshops. One is going to be in India in January, then in April in Brazil, and May in Eastern Europe in Romania, and then one in Mexico. And all of those representatives from those institutions are here today to kind of help learn how to plan those workshops. So this is kind of the growth of the number of schools. And is this looking exponential, Yanis, a little bit? Okay, so we might be able to hug the exponential a little bit in here. And the other one is the number of graduates, and this is the total number of graduates, cumulative is what I've put here. And as you can see, this is also kind of growing up, but the goal in Obama's letter where the 122 deans signed was 20,000 graduates by 2025. So 10 years, 20,000 graduates. So to get there, I think we need a little bit of work that needs to do. But one thing I do want to point out is that this number, which is going to be in 2019, projected number from the number of seniors for this program, is only by a handful of schools, maybe 12 schools, occupy almost 85% of those numbers. So the other schools are just coming on board, and we expect those numbers to really take off very soon in the next 2 or 3 years, because it takes about 2-3 years to start getting steady state in each school. So that is a good hope for that and getting the numbers up. And then if you look at the type of grand challenges that students are pursuing, there's a good variety, even though there are some which are obviously more attractive to students. And especially I want to point out engineering, better medicine, and advancing health informatics. They are the largest. So I think that tells us a little bit about how engineering is playing a role in health. It's very important now. It's more and more important. And I'll give you some specific examples even highlighting some alumni who are doing this. The other ones are, access to clean water, urban infrastructure, solar energy, which is the kind of a sustainability kind of umbrella that was mentioned. So that it's a good distribution of the schools that are there. And the final thing is, where are the graduates, going international work? I was really surprised, and thank you for all the schools. About 40 schools responded to the survey that we sent out just recently to collect all this information that I'm presenting today. And there were 70 countries in which the Grand Challenge Scholar Program students were doing projects in. I was really blown away by that. And then we just put some of the countries that there's more projects that have been done by multiple universities. And so you can see a large number of the globe, and pretty soon GCSP will cover the entire globe green, I think. So that's kind of thing. One of the things that I heard from some of the students is that they're seeing this global program and captured in this particular quote. I see this. I like this quote a lot. Seeing the world at home. They're seeing the world at home while they're studying engineering, and also they learn how to be at home in the world. So that's kind of a wonderful, concept, I think. And in looking at the kinds of pursuits that the Grand Challenge Scholar alumni are doing, and this is, we don't have a tremendously large data set here. I hope to get more data from alumni, and I think one of the ways that would be is hopefully the schools will help us in getting these data. It's hard to keep track of alumni, especially the millennials. You look at one point in time, they're at one pursuit, and then a year later they are doing something else, and a year later they're doing something else. So they change pursuits a lot. So we've been trying to keep track of it, and I've also asked some of the alumni to kind of help me with this network, like Andrew here, for example. So 30% traditional PhDs, that's good. And then 20% other programs. That's I think it's fairly a good large number, I think. And in terms of MDs and Masters in Public Policy, MBA, law schools, etc. Industry is a good 40%, and then people doing NGO work and government work 10%. So I think it's a good distribution of the type of pursuits that they're pursuing. We always say, is this program working? The proof is in the pudding, they say. So what are our alumni doing? I just put out a few of these names here, and I didn't know that some of them are going to be here, actually, it turns out. That later on, I was looking at the registration list, and I said, oh, wow, some of the people are here. Andrew, for example, is here. So he is working in the NGO space, and he is sorry, not Uganda, Rwanda, I'm sorry. In Rwanda, he is founding a company which is providing holistic water solutions to the people. So one of the things, and I put some of the quotes that the students said from in their own words. No solution exists in vacuum. That's one of the key lessons he learned in GCSP, he said, and he took it forward to his career. And Amara was here in the 2017 GGCS, the Global Grand Challenge Summit. You might have remember. And she's doing a global policy program at the LBJ school in UT Austin. And she said that she's propelled me to GCSP has propelled me to step outside the boundaries, the comfort zones that she was previously. She's an environmental engineer to begin with. Ellen from Olin, she said, sometimes you take a path and then you get an idea, and you say, if you don't pursue that idea right then and there, there's no use. So she said the time to do anything is now. So she was in MBA program at Harvard, and after 1 year, she quit. I don't know whether she has gone back or, Olin might know more details about it. But she has founded a company. She was working for a startup first for 5 years, and then she started up another company just recently called Dark. That's the name of the company, which does next generation software development. So I think there are a variety of things that they're doing. Michaela, who is right here, and already Kumar has mentioned, she's a co-chair of the National Science Policy Network, and thanks to funding from Smith Futures. And I think there's a lot of, Kumar was mentioning to us that he's looking for these kinds of ideas from other students groups in other universities, and they may be willing to help and support and even fund some of the things. So she says that she found a passion for policy through this GCSP program. And I put 4 more because I really like these stories, and I would like all of you to help me to collect more of these stories so that we can collect them and communicate them. And these are, though they're not quantitative, they're much more powerful when you talk about what students are doing. A guy from Arizona State University who graduated, he's now at the Global Foundries, a semiconductor company. And what he said is that he wants to be both doing something that's both local and global. It's kind of welfare of the community, both local and global. That's one of the lessons that he took away from the GCSP program. Gregory is an interesting character here. MD PhD is not something that gives you a lot of free time. But in the middle of the MD PhD program, he has founded a company called Viger, which is a management platform for chronic diseases. So he is at UCSD doing his program even now. Stephanie from USC, she is working in a company as an entrepreneur, not necessarily an entrepreneur, but in Edward Life Sciences, which is a very large medical devices company. And then while she was, I think, a student and she continues to work on it, she founded this company called FlexSpecs, which is doing work on adjustable visual aids for underserved communities. So she wants to do that in her career as well. She was here as a participant in the Global Grand Challenge Summit. And Andy from Olin is another example which is completely kind of unusual that you may think of. He says he's an engineer by training, problem solver by nature, and now a high school teacher by day. So it's wonderful. And he wants to give deep and meaningful educational experiences for K-12 students. So maybe, Daryl, you could contact Andy. He's using the Grand Challenges for K-12 community. So these are some of the stories, and we like to collect more of those stories. We have about 150, I think, of the alumni out of the 600. So we still have a long way to go in collecting stories, and I seek your help for collecting them. So in terms of the scaling, Kumar mentioned this also. We need to think about scaling, because if you look at the number of schools, Dan mentioned yesterday that the target 5 years from now is 200 US and 200 abroad. So that's a daunting but achievable goal. We have the why. Once you communicate the why, the what and the how can become much more easy for people to take it on themselves and then carry on with the inspiration. So the why is already established by the vision and also all the things you have heard about why the GCSP type programs are extremely important. Increasing the number of schools by 1 order of magnitude. We have about 65 schools right now, with another 80 schools in the US in the process at various stages. And in the international, we have about 40 schools. So that's in the pipeline. So we need to be continuously adding to that pipeline and then moving them from they're showing interest, to developing a proposal, getting approved, and becoming a member. So that whole process takes sometimes 6 months to a year. And so that's something that we could easily do, I think, an order of magnitude of schools. But increasing the graduates, we probably need closer to 2 orders of magnitude. So that's something that is not only, growing the programs that are there and making them more robust and more, stronger, but also getting more schools. I think we can do a combination of both, and hopefully we can reach the 20,000 by 2025 with this. Right now, as I said, we have about slightly short of 1,000 in that number. So forging a vibrant network, there are many ways of doing this for scaling. We can only rely on the network for the scaling. That's where all of us come in. Institutions, there are examples of institutions. One example is, with a grant from Teagle Foundation, Olin College partnered with a few institutions, WPI, RIT, Harvey Mudd, Rollins Technological University, and Kettering University. And then the goal was to start Grand Challenge Scholar programs at these other schools, which they did not have. And I'm glad to report that out of the 5, 4 of them, 2 of them already have it, 2 of them will have it soon. So that's a great kind of program that one of the programs can take the lead and start and help others and mentor others. In terms of GCSP students and alumni, I think one of the ways is to connect the students. An example I'm going to give here is a course that Arizona State University is offering with students from ASU and also from University of New South Wales in Australia are taking simultaneously together. And they're jointly designing and solving and addressing, co-designing and co-addressing problems. So that kind of things, I think more and more can be done about that. I'm only giving a few examples. There are more examples of this, but shortage of time I'm doing it. For aligned networks, we have Key Network and GCSP. They formed what's called a subnet of a group that overlaps the two and then help support each other. And this is something that, again, Arizona State University has got a grant from the Kern Foundation to do this, and they recently had a workshop where about 20 institutions came, and then they work on this kind of a intersection between the Key Network and the GCSP. The other one is a recent work by the EPICS and the EWB in East Asia and also in India. So they're forming a coalition there to promote Grand Challenge Scholar programs because the alignment of EPICS and EWBs together. The last one is GCSP ambassadors. And this is a lot of people who have come on their own, being inspired by this idea. Like NAE members from Brazil, we have 2 of them today who are now going to organize a workshop in Brazil. And we have GCSP directors. We have one GCSP director from here, from SUNY in Syracuse, who went to Italy and then inspired a program there. And now we have the first program from Europe, Sapienza, University of Rome at Sapienza there. So we have GCSP directors as ambassadors, NAE members as ambassadors, and multinational companies, many of them are here, who are also going to be ambassadors for this program. I think this kind of network is what's going to really propel the scale that we need to reach. Just want to leave you with a few. I know that maybe we're running out of time a little bit, but I do want to leave with 3 or 4 visuals which I really feel will help us think a little bit. One is kind of the centrality of GCSP, that we sit in these 5 kind of regions here right in the middle, squarely in the middle. And I feel that we have extent of reaching down to the public and the K-12 because the students want to do it. And also we have connections as students graduate into research and development and even to policy, as we have seen before. So I think we have to take advantage of the centrality of GCSP. And then this is something that was mentioned before. I might put on my kind of a university faculty hat saying, I was part of this black box here. We're not doing as good a job as we could have. And the input and output are the people who want to join, and they have different motivations and other dreams, but we are not providing kind of the avenue for that. And output is what the graduate schools and the employers want. So we're not doing good enough jobs for these either. So these are the impedance mismatches that I call. One is kind of the from the next generation. Why do they want to become an engineer? And people want to solve problems. They want to make a change. So those points that are over here are what we need to provide. And I think probably, and then same thing over here. The talent, address the grand challenges. These are the competencies that the industry and even the graduate schools are looking for, and we're not doing as good a job. Of course, GCSP schools are not part of this thing here. They are doing a good job. And so why is it that happening? Because I think it's because of these 3 kind of curses that educational institutions have. We have high inertia, a lot of bureaucracy, and we are somewhat impersonal. So what can we do? So I think I would say Grand Challenge Scholar Program, let's replace the black box with the GCSP there, and then have these connections, where we think in terms of systems, in terms of how the output can interact with this program and even go all the way back to the input and kind of connect all the systems together in a way that we can make this a very strong program and then remove all these impedance mismatches and create a kind of a seamless pathway between them. So maybe I'll just leave it here. Yes. And then thank you for your attention.